Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome to our car.
No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Ride along with us.
Welcome to the podcast that is all about living. I'm co-host Josh, and today we are blessed to be joined by Kristen Wright. Kristen is an amazing young woman set on having a positive impact on anyone she encounters. She was crowned Miss World Australia for 2022 and 2023 season. She is a presenter and speaker, a children's author, an SSI instructor. She's studying her Bachelor of Biomedical Science, and to top it all off, she has her project Educate Resuscitate. Later this year, she will compete in India at Miss World, where she hopes to bring her project to the international stage. In this podcast, Kristen speaks about her project Educate Resuscitate, which is all about wanting to get CPR and First Aid training into the school curriculum. Kristen also explains what Miss World actually is and how it is so much more than just a beauty pageant, which a lot of us, myself included, typically think it is. She also sheds light on the importance of community and how important it is to have a close circle of people to hold you accountable. Despite everything that Kristen does in her life, she understands that it's the simple things she does each day that keep her grounded. I hope you enjoy this episode, and before we get into it, I will leave you with one final thought. Over the summer of 2020 and 2021, in Australia, drownings increased by 30% compared to the previous summer. I would encourage you to either go and get CPR and First Aid certified, or if you already are, maybe encourage a friend who isn't to go and get theirs done. You never know when you might need it. My love goes out to you all. Keep living. Last note, at the time of recording, there were so many cars driving past, and given that we record out of the car with the windows down, does tend to get quite noisy at times, so sorry about that.
What? Oh, yeah. I was at McDonald's tomorrow, like in the line.
Yeah.
And I walk in, there's like a whole group of Aboriginal kids.
50 kids.
Yeah, like just all there. I'm just like, what is this? Like the curiosity in me is like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Spot you commanding everyone, and I'm just like, oh. And I think we were next to each other in the line.
Yeah, we were.
And I was just like, what is this thing?
Yeah, and
Like,
that point as well, I had just rocked up to the McDonald's with Jack, the CEO of Bush to Beach, to meet the kids. That was my first time meeting them as well.
yeah. Oh, that's right, because when we were talking, like, people would come up to you and you'd be like, oh, are you excited to do this? And the kids are like so shy.
So shy.
Yeah,
and like they were also tired. They had a 12-hour bus ride to get there, like overnight. So I gather only some of them probably would have had 3 or 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
So it was an intense couple of days.
Yeah.
But I can't believe we met in that Macca's. It was meant to be.
Yeah. Well, we just got talking. I was like, this is so cool. And you were kind of telling me about like different avenues of your life. I'm like, this is great. Like, you should jump on the pod. And like, yeah, thanks for coming up.
Yeah, no, it look, from that day it was I've always kind of done volunteer work. I've done volunteer work since I was 14.
Oh, cool.
So I was really lucky. The high school that I went to, come year 8, it was there's an option basically to, instead of do religion, you can do volunteering.
Wow.
Oh,
it was like an elective.
Cool.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, okay, amazing. And so that's what kind of really gave me the insight and the perspective of the impact that volunteers make. I think every teenager should have to do at least a year of volunteer work, whether it be for a disability foundation with kids, one of the St. Vinny's op shops or the Salvos. It just gives you an external perspective, because I think that age we can be so entwined within our own little bubbles and our world, and it's,
the world revolves around us.
Yeah. And I think it just really helped me gain a kind of bigger perspective. But volunteering has always been a really big passion of mine, and I felt privileged to be able to go on that.
So is that the first one you did? Like the first one you went on?
Camp.
Like,
yeah, because it was postponed due to COVID. So I met Jack back in like 2020 or 2021, when Bush to Beach first started associating with Miss World Australia. That's when we were first introduced to the charity. Bush to Beach, though, has been running since 2006. He has had over 700 kids through this camp.
Wow, that's nuts.
And we got talking, and then the development of my project started in 2021. This was all before I won Miss Australia, because I knew I wanted to implement things that would be bigger than the competition, essentially.
That's cool.
It was just like a nice little addition if I got it, kind of thing. And so Jack and I got talking. I did some fundraisers for him. I knew I wanted to be on that camp regardless of what happened. It was actually scheduled to happen last year in October. However, you guys obviously had the horrific rains and the floods, and we had to postpone it. Best thing we ever did, because we got such perfect weather for it.
Yeah, I remember that weekend.
Start of
So
Feb.
good.
Yeah, so it definitely was a blessing in disguise. But that was my first camp, being there with the kids, and I added the snorkeling element. So I donated, thanks to my work, 50 masks and snorkels for the kids.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then we also did the CPR and the first aid as well. And now it's growing into a long-term relationship in terms of Educate Resuscitate and Bush to Beach, and we want to keep those two projects kind of in alignment moving forward, because we understand the impact of having an educational component on this camp that also gives these kids just a different perspective, and takes them out of their usual environment, which I think is healthy for everyone. I think it's so healthy when we're put in new surroundings.
That's cool. Yeah, so with the snorkeling element, like an interesting thing about you is you're a like certified scuba instructor. Is that what it is? Yeah. So how does that even is that from, because I think we spoke about it, like where you lived in Melbourne, you were on the beach, like you were right on the peninsula type thing? So is that how you got into that?
Sort of. So I always grew up around water. I was really lucky growing up on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, which is similar to kind of your coastal Bondi, Coogee, all that. And we're really lucky on the peninsula. We have Bayside, so the safe kind of nice bay area, and then Surfside. Dad had us in the water from before we could walk, and we also have always grown up. My parents have a property down in Foster, which is a kind of rural area near Wilson's Promontory, if you guys have ever heard of that. We kept it bush though, and that's where I grew up. We would go surfing and then motorbike riding, and then so it was really important for Mum and Dad for us to grow up outside. When I was 14, we had a trip to the Great Barrier Reef. I'd never been there before. Went with my little sister and my mum and my dad. My older brother didn't come to it. I think he was working or away himself or something. And on the reef, when we were doing the snorkeling tours, Dad surprised me with what's called a tri-dive. A tri-dive is like a crash course scuba diving. They tell you a little bit about it, chuck the equipment on you, and they guide you underwater like you're literally like a doll. So you don't really get much say in what happens. When I first went under, I absolutely hated it. I was overweighted, so I had too much weight on me, so I was scratching my legs on the coral. Couldn't really see. I wanted to learn what the equipment did. I hated that I didn't know what was going on, kind of thing. And I was kind of looking at my dad, and I was like, how do you enjoy this? Like, I don't. I was like, why is this a sport? And then there was a moment on the dive where we kneeled for like the tourist photo bit. And there was a giant fish. Forgive me, I'll have to look up what breed it was. It's been a while. It literally came and took a photo with us, and then got a treat from the dive instructor and swam off. This giant fish posed with us, and that was it. I was like, okay, done.
This is so cool.
This is I was like, I see why people love it. And so after that, my parents booked me an open water course, which is your first certification, which certifies you to 18 meters, with the local dive shop in Mornington. Basically, I saw it as a good opportunity to create a safety net for myself. And after I did my course, the owner, bless them, they were the most beautiful people. The instructor trainer was in the Ambos for 30 years. His wife was a teacher. And then they got into the diving industry. And he basically sat me down knowing that, okay, I want to become an instructor. And he basically said, if you work for me, I'll help you through your courses.
Wow.
Cool.
So from the moment when I'd worked hospitality and everything, did the whole, I feel like it's a rite of passage, working all that stuff, before I was offered a job with them. But that's kind of where it took off. And then so through years 10, 11 and 12, I was working every weekend, diving at least 4 to 6 times a week, depending on the courses and if it was holidays or not, working through all of the courses to lead me up to the instructor course. And then when I turned 18, the day after, I started the instructor evaluation and the instructor course itself, which is a 10-day intense course. It is the most stressed I've ever been. It was hell, if I'm being completely honest. We were put through, so first to get to that point, you actually have to be nominated. Because my boss, being an instructor trainer, he had to nominate me. Then someone else external comes and evaluates you in order to certify you as an instructor. If I was to fail, that's a mark against my instructor trainer's name. So my boss, and he gets 3 strikes. If he gets 3 strikes, he loses his status as an instructor trainer.
Wow.
So that's taken very seriously, clearly. As in, like, if you're not ready, like, you should not be here.
No. Yeah. And it's, there's only, so there's a few different organizations internationally. So there's PADI. You guys probably would have seen them in Thailand or no. PADI and SSI. I work for SSI. In terms of the recreational level, it's very similar. When we get to the professional level, there are slight differences in terms of insurance and liabilities and things like that. But SSI, that's where the strike is.
Yeah.
And my boss from a previous candidate had already had 1 strike.
Wow.
And there's only like 10 instructor trainers for SSI in Australia, very minimal numbers. So it's like pressure was on.
Yeah.
And it was, so for the first 7 days, we are basically just worn out in terms of they were like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. days.
Oh my goodness.
We would be in the classroom, in the pool, doing demo, like teaching. And then that night he'd be like, okay, I need 2 20-minute talks on decompression sickness and the cardiovascular system and diving to present to me tomorrow.
Wow.
And then he'd grade us. And then our exam we had to get 100% on. And then come the IE, there's an external evaluator that comes in. You have to basically teach a course for 3 days. Your students are dive professionals. And through the course, they're told by the evaluator to mess up in certain parts. And if you don't pick it up,
then see ya.
This is like full stimulation.
That's wild. I mean, it makes sense. Like, it's so dangerous. Like, if things go wrong, it's catastrophic.
And it is. And it was, so that's why that was the most stressed I've ever been. So it takes a lot to rattle me now, thank God.
Yeah.
And then after I kind of got that certification, I upgraded to a specialty instructor. So teaching like rec penetration, nitrox, mixed gases and things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to dial it back a little bit, you said your parents like put you through the course and you said for you it was very intentional to create a safety net for yourself.
Yeah.
And you said like year 10, so you're 16 or so at the time.
Yeah.
Were you always that intentional from such a young age? Because that's a pretty like decent amount of self-awareness at that age to be like, I want to have a safety net.
I think I just saw it as a really valuable opportunity that wouldn't necessarily distract from my studies at the time. And I also saw it as an opportunity to learn very valuable skills that I can implement in all areas of my life, not just diving. The responsibility, controlling a group in terms of the way you speak to them. My boss, being in the AMBOs, was very big on the psychology behind it. So being able to pick up kind of personalities and things like that. Who is stressed, who isn't, the overconfident one versus the quiet one. So it taught me a lot of skills in terms of just life skills very young. And the responsibility, looking back, it was a lot of responsibility for an 18-year-old. But I think in every way it made me disciplined, and it benefited me in terms of other areas of my life. But I've kind of, I think I've always had that mindset of creating safety nets for myself, because don't get me wrong, my parents are beautiful, my family is beautiful, but we've had everything we need, but we're not, abundantly.
Comparative to other wealth around us.
And I think I've just always had that mindset of creating that safety net for myself as something to fall back on so that I can go full steam ahead towards my goals. So then regardless of what happens, I have 1, no regrets, 2, I've believed in myself, and 3, I've always have something to fall back on.
It's cool. That's sort of a different mindset to what most people have when they think of like a backup plan. There's that quote, having a plan B only distracts you from a plan A, but your approach with it is more so like, let me have this so I can just go full steam, so I can take the reins off and just absolutely run for my goals. And do you, when you think about that plan B or that safety net, how does it make you feel if you were to have to go down that avenue? Is it something that comes with more negative emotions, or?
No, not at all. The people that I've met in the diving industry are some of the most amazing people. In Melbourne being a cooler state, it's quite a small community, and I think there's something really beautiful about how everyone is connected through the love of diving. It also, if I was to fall back on it, I could go work in the Maldives. I could go work in Thailand. I could go work in, it gives me the option for not only travel, but it is a universal job. And especially because I can teach it in English, that's where kind of the benefit is as well. So no negative thoughts.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the main path and the goal, what is that? I'm assuming like it is to do with Miss World and stuff around that, or?
Look, I think when I entered Miss World, it was start of 2020.
And sorry, for context, like what exactly is Miss World?
Yeah, so you guys have obviously heard of Miss Universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So same but different. Miss World's actually the older of the 2 pageants. It is owned by a wonderful lady called Julia Morley. When she took over from her husband who passed, she took out bikini and she implemented Beauty with a Purpose. So Beauty with a Purpose is about creating projects within your community to create positive change. Globally, Miss World has raised over $1 billion US for charities across the entire world.
That's amazing.
And the impact she has made on so many lives is what not only why I respect her so highly, but the organization and what she's made it from, kind of thing. So that is the overview of Miss World and what the main element is about. There are different levels to the competition. We do have to participate in like head-to-head, which is kind of an interview panel style, pitching our project as well as being an ambassador for the country that we're in. There's a sporting challenge, there is a talent challenge, there's Top Model where we get to work with designers from that country as well as across the globe and display some of their beautiful pieces. But the core of it is about giving back. And I didn't know that when I entered. Because pageants, like in Australia, as you guys know, they're not very well known. I entered because my cousin thought I'd be good at it.
No way.
And I was kind of like, don't really know much about it. I was like, okay, I'll enter on a whim. I didn't think I'd got through. And then going through all the levels and having COVID postpone them. So postpone not only the preliminary finals, but the state finals ahead of the national final, which is where the national finalists from each state collectively get together for a week. And then the crowning ceremony is on the last night. It was my biggest blessing because it allowed me to take a step back and be like, hang on a minute, why am I actually competing? The people that I met through that process have just been indescribable, and the heart that they have is just beautiful. I started a podcast of my own called Mindfulness Mondays. I started at peak COVID because I wanted to be there was so much negativity going on in the world at that time, and I wanted to be a space of positivity and a distraction for people who needed it. So I was really privileged to interview some amazing people. I interviewed Jack, the CEO of Bush to Beach. That's kind of like how our conversation started. Our Variety CEO. I interviewed smaller organisations like Sisterworks, who employ refugee women in Melbourne. Hannah Divany, who is making waves at the moment, and just these different people I got to speak to, and again it gave me that perspective. And so I think my future plans, so I'm studying biomed, I always want to work pediatrics. What avenue that is in yet, I'm not 100% sure, because I'm not going to lie, having Miss World go on for, 3, nearly 4 years, it throws a spanner in that, because I am dedicated to it. So it's kind of like, it has kind of dragged out my studies a little bit longer than I had hoped, but I know I'm still young. And I know though now I view Miss World as a job. I don't view it as a pageant. I view it as a job with your responsibilities predominantly being in the humanitarian sector across the globe. And that to me is like my dream job. Being able to do that full time and help people like our bush kids, like the variety kids, and do aid work and give back, that is my dream job. But I know working hard towards Miss World, only good can come from it, even if it isn't a win. I know that being around those like-minded people, so much good energy is going to come from competing at Miss World, let alone meeting the people behind the organisation. And I think as well, something that really solidified that kind of mindset when approaching Miss World is how I see it as a job, is definitely stems from my love for volunteering. The reason why I love volunteering is because I did absolutely nothing to not only be born into a first world country, but a loving family with opportunities at my door. Absolutely nothing. And so I kind of see that as not a debt to be owed, but I think a good reason to give back to those kids who were literally just born into the situations that they're in. They did nothing either. Like, why did I get lucky and they didn't? So that's been always my mindset when volunteering. And I think that's why when I meet these kids and go to the rural communities, and this just passion grows within me, and it feels right being at Miss World.
With the, like, obviously you won Miss World Australia, so you are Miss World Australia. Do you feel like you understood the responsibility that actually comes with that title? Because I feel like from the outside, it seems like, oh, like you have that title, but you represent, when you go to Miss World, you represent a whole country. So maybe you could shed some insight on what that actually is like to have that responsibility.
Definitely. It definitely forces me to be mindful, because we're in a very, I think, different country to most. Not only are we multicultural, we have our First Nations to consider. We also have everyone's opinions to consider, because we're very outspoken. So before I speak and before I do something publicly, I am very mindful of always looking at both sides of the argument. I obviously am allowed my own opinions myself, but if anything, the title has made me very self-aware in terms of, okay, I can understand why this person may think this and why this person is rebuttaling that. It's given me that different perspective. In terms of representing Australia, I don't think it's sunk in. Because a little bit, winning the title, I knew what Miss World was about. Working again has just solidified that it's something that aligns very strongly with my values. But overall, I think I've kept quite a normal life. I still work, still pay my bills, I'm still studying. I'm grateful for that, because that has kept me humble and kept me grounded, and it has allowed me to compete not only how I want to compete, but be myself, because the last thing I want to do is lose myself in a competition like this. That would be difficult, I can imagine, especially if there's like an expectation that you may put on yourself or others put on you. It'd be hard to stay true to you. And I think that's just my biggest thing, is ensuring that when I go over, that it's me, and I am very much a person, what you see is what you get. And I guess that's probably one of my proudest achievements, is I'm very comfortable with kind of who I am, the way I do things. I like how I make decisions. I like how I fail at things and come back from them. It's been a really big kind of self-growth opportunity. And so going over, I just feel very level-headed, and I feel very much me, and knowing what the work I'm doing, it's coming from my heart, not for a competition, because all the work I'm doing is gonna go on after it. I'm already talking to Jack about next year, so when after Miss World, this is what we're doing. So it's I just feel very, very gracious that I've been able to kind of been given a national and then an international platform to display causes that need help.
That's beautiful. Does it feel like a competition? Because everything you've said, it is a competition, but you said it more feels like a job, and you feel so connected to the people you're technically competing against. But does it really come with that, like, yes, I won sort of feeling that most other sporting competitions come with?
Honestly, no. I think, though, that's my personal mindset. I think everyone is going to feel a little bit different depending on what pressures they have from their home countries. My mindset, though, is that it's so much bigger than us as individuals. We're all there working collectively towards a similar cause. At the time, they just need to kind of pick essentially one vessel to help voice the work and display the dedication from all the contestants. So it's kind of like, to me, it doesn't feel like a competition. If anything, it feels just like a mass meeting of like-minded people, and we're all working towards a similar cause. Because some of these other countries' projects are just absolutely what these young women are achieving. I'm going out, like, some of them they're lawyers, they're doctors, then they do on the side their project, and they also do then they have hobbies, and these women competing at Miss World are so accomplished yet so humble, and they have these hearts of gold, and like, why wouldn't I want to be around these people?
It seems to be that is sort of the community vibe, because when you first came on, you said that Miss World has raised over $1 billion, and it's like, again, that's speaking about Miss World, everyone involved, not just this person or that person, which is so beautiful. And where do you think that humility comes from for you?
I think it goes back to understanding the privilege I was born into. I'm very aware of it, and I think that understanding is why I have such a passion for it, as well as my project itself. I want my project to be national, if not international, because it's the universal skills to save a life. How can it not go worldwide? So I think that passion definitely stems from my own causes, but as well, it becomes addictive in terms of being around these people and seeing what they're doing. You just want to learn more, and you just want to give more, and you just want to. Time is so precious, and to be able to spend it making someone else's day better, that is just life. I think we're here to make an impact, and it gets you out of that little bubble, which is so easy to get trapped into.
100%. What do you do for yourself to pull yourself out of that bubble? Because I'm sure, like, the social media side of things and that whole world, you can get very much caught up in the title and all that sort of stuff. So what do you do to pull yourself and ground yourself in a way?
I surround myself with very humbling people. My family is very humbling. My beautiful housemate, she is as well. She's like a sister. I think if I need to pull myself out of a potential kind of closed off mindset, I love to read. I always turn to books. I always turn to even just being outside, taking myself for a surf or a walk or a dive, and allowing myself, though, I think one of the healthiest things we can do is allow yourself to completely feel emotions. I think allowing yourself going through the wave of what you're feeling and to be able to kind of identify why you're feeling a certain way towards things helps with progression, and it also helps identify those signs in the future, so that when you hit with that wave of emotion again, you can kind of handle it better, and you have the tools to, you've been equipped with the tools so that it doesn't kind of ruin your whole day or your week.
Definitely. And I also think as well, sometimes just feeling the emotion and not necessarily trying to dive deeper and find the why, but knowing, like, okay, there was this win, and now all this emotion's here, let me just ride it and feel it, because that is our human existence, just feeling. And another, like, grounding technique or something I like to do, just a perspective shift, is animals. And you have dogs and you love them. I always come back to, like, dogs don't care what your title is, who you are. Like, mum, you can feed me, walk me, clean up after me. Like, I don't care what you've just done, just do that.
He would trade me for a chicken. He loves me unconditionally.
100%.
And it's very again, though, I think dogs and pets, any pets, cats, whatever you have, gives a sense of responsibility higher than yourself. So it's another perspective and another layer to be like, hang on a minute, I'm feeling like this today, but I also have responsibilities.
Yeah.
So with how did you actually start the Educate Resuscitate? How did you actually start that?
So that was started back in 2021.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was peak COVID. I saw on the news a reporter, it was when our drowning rates were really bad because we've had the floods, swim schools have closed, which is a huge factor. And things were like half open, but potentially weren't being patrolled, and it was messy.
Yeah.
And I remember a reporter being in one of the rural towns and basically interviewing the locals there, but also interviewing the lifeguards and some ambos. The stats they were throwing out were just horrific. And I was like, this isn't okay. Something has to change. And with my background in scuba diving, first aid and CPR I've had to do since I was 15. It's very much ingrained within who I am. So it's second nature. I didn't really think of it as kind of an addition. And my project itself is dedicated to a beautiful friend of mine. She passed away when I was 16 during a scuba accident. The student didn't drown. He didn't have water in his lungs. His heart just stopped underwater, but she's drowned trying to save an already dead man.
Wow.
So she, though, was like one of my biggest role models. She was just absolutely kick butt at what she did. She is a big reason to why I became an instructor, especially in a male-dominated field. She was just so strong yet compassionate and so passionate about the first aid and CPR side of diving and the safety side. And that's kind of where it stemmed and who it's dedicated to because of that passion. And like, I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for her. She just, her spirit and her fight is something I will always admire. And so my project is dedicated to her, but long-term goals of the project is to implement first aid and CPR within our high school curriculum. Because why we don't have it in there, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's so insane. Never thought about that.
Yeah.
So I go around to do workshops. I do workshops. I don't certify anyone because that gets messy. I just do fun workshops. We'll put music on. We'll get the dolls out. We'll go through a first aid kit, and I do primary schools and high school kids. Something that I've been really trying to kind of hone into the high school kids because, teenagers. If they get their first aid and CPR certification going for their first job, they're probably going to be employed above a kid that doesn't have it. So I'm trying to word it in a way hang on a minute, this gives you certs before you start work. And so it's just kind of grown, and the support I've had from it has been absolutely incredible. And then I was lucky enough to now be able to call it my Beauty with a Purpose project leading into Miss World.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's my country's project that I'm presenting on the international stage.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Yeah, I think there's nothing worse than feeling helpless in a situation where, like, had you have taken a course, had you have obtained some knowledge and skills, and you could have helped and had a massive impact. And obviously we can't know everything, so every situation isn't covered. But in a country like Australia, where the ocean is just bred into pretty much every Australian, and we just live and breathe it, like, those skills, it just makes so much sense for all of us to have it. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a situation where you can't help because you don't know how to. Yeah, and it's the thing that's really interesting about it as well is the more people I talk to, the more people have stories about being in those situations, which is scary because it means it can happen. And God forbid anyone ever has to. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, because it is scary. But it's kind of an innate response when you've had the training. You just remember it. And I think something that's really beautiful about my project is that I know it's bigger than me. I know it can keep going on if I lay the foundation work, and I know that it starts conversations. And at the end of the day, if I can start conversations about a topic that's life-changing, that's all that matters, you know? So
What's crazy about that in my head is that, like, the information's there, like, how to actually do CPR as a thing.
Yeah.
But like, how do we not all know that?
Yeah. And it's that's why I'm like, how is it not within our curriculum?
That's the most amazing thing. Like, I hadn't thought about it until you said it.
And we live like, we grew up on the Northern Beaches, which is like, each suburb has
Everyone.
a
Yeah.
beach. Each suburb has 2 beaches.
Yeah.
Like, how do we not even, like, even if it's just a local thing there?
And it's I know some like primary schools and high schools would do like days and then pick a few kids, but it's not like
Everyone.
guys, we're doing it this week.
It should be like, the math test, the CPR,
CPR
like it's
test.
just everyone does it.
Yeah.
What do you think ideally, like obviously you're a couple of years in, but like ideally, like what does that look like in the curriculum? Like what does the actual like, content look like, I guess?
I would probably target, you'd have to get external, because as I said, I don't certify.
Yeah.
You would get external people.
Which is
who
2
actually
parts.
teach
There's
it.
definitely 2 sides though. Like you need to make it like digestible for people. Like you doing
100%.
your part and then someone actually certifies.
And I'm like the fun part.
Yeah.
Like the Bush to
Which
Beach
is-
kids, we had slushies, we got the music going. It's a fun environment because I understand with younger kids it's a heavy topic. But I think if anything within the high school curriculum, I think it should be done year 8 and then potentially year 11 again. Every year would be ideal to have some form of workshop, but in terms of certifying, year 8 is kind of a great time to start it because not only are the kids strong enough to actually
Do it.
make
Good
it click,
point.
it's getting their cogs turning about, okay, this is potentially something that not only I need for future work, future sporting endeavours, could potentially spark a passion of theirs to be within the healthcare system as well. And then year 11, that's when it's getting serious and it will be the proper, you
Like
can
you're
even
an
do year
adult.
10.
And it's also, I think it's kind of a great one because it's sort of the age where kids start venturing out by themselves without their parents. Like they'll go to the beach with their mates.
Yeah.
And just that makes sense.
There was a story that I heard of a mother who was so fit. She was in her 40s, PT, amazing woman. She had a 16-year-old son, 17, and a, 11-year-old daughter. And she was at home one day working out in the gym, in her home gym, in the treadmill and stuff. She had a heart attack.
Wow.
Her heart stopped. Her son found her and her daughter on the floor in the gym. The daughter called the ambulance. The only reason why she is alive today is because he played footy, the son. They had like a tutorial on it one random day and he did compressions on his mum. That is why she is alive today. She had no oxygen to her brain for, I think, it was something like 5 minutes. It was a long time. And the fact that she doesn't have any brain injuries or anything like that, she is the reason why, he is the reason why she's alive.
That's amazing.
And I'm sure there's so many other countless stories on that behalf.
And he now obviously is going through getting them all. So it's proper, properly what to do kind of thing. So it's not as much of a shock. It's still a horrific shock finding your mum in that state.
100%.
But just little things like that. A singular tutorial allowed this guy to remember.
And what's nuts is that there was just enough entertainment value for him to pay attention. That he actually learned something and it stuck in his brain.
And he saved his mum.
That's crazy.
Another thing that I think is really important with the training is defibrillator training. They're in all the shopping centres and things like that, and it's very easy to use. It tells you what to do.
What to do,
But in terms of practice, putting it on a dummy or a child and where the sticky pads have to go, the charge.
It's almost the confidence as well. The confidence, you've done it before. So you're like, and I know it just tells me. Just because it tells you, if you haven't done it, you're still like, is there something it doesn't tell me?
And it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, what is this thing?
And people's, if you're not aware, your initial reaction is more so going to be to not get involved so you don't feel accountable. It's like the trolley problem simulation. Have you heard of that? The train. It's like, I'm not going to touch it, so I'm not involved or responsible. And if you're not aware and it's there, you're like, I'd rather just not do it so no one can blame me. Because there is a chance where you could do something wrong and you impact it. But I think if people are aware, then they're going to feel much more confident to actually do something about it.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, even talking about the safety of the person about to do it. so you don't just jump in. Looking at the danger so they don't get hurt. Then the poor ambos who rock up have 2 people. Right, you know, like it's going into the safety of it for the person who's wanting to help as well that doesn't really get talked about. So yeah, I'm really passionate about it. I'm grateful that I've been able to kind of make a project that is quite universal, and I have very big plans for it.
That's so cool.
So sick.
So when you were 16 and that incident happened with your friend, was it that one moment that just lit a fire in you and was like, I want to see change, or do you think it was sort of a slow burn?
It definitely was a slow burn. I never thought that I would have a project, if I'm being honest. I know that she was a very big inspiration to a lot of my choices, and I kind of would look to her for advice in terms of having a very strong... Something that's really fascinating with my life is that in all kind of the pivotal moments of my life, I've all had very, very strong female role models, very prominent. And she was a really big one because I would kind of look to her for advice and be like, okay, how would she handle this situation? So I had so much, I admired her so much. And I think, yes, that was horrific. And it definitely started a snowball effect in terms of there needs to, like, why I became an instructor and things like that. But definitely the turnaround point was how our drownings rate jumped during COVID. Like between 2021 and 2022, it jumped by 15%.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
Wow. What's the actual...
It was like nearly an additional 100 people.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the actual number? That's insane.
And that's not everyone. That's not including like accidents and like... like,
oh, wow.
That was like...
What age is that as well? Is that like just all ages?
All ages.
That's wild.
Wow. Do you think that's definitely because of the swim...
It would be a lot because of the swim school and the floods.
Yeah,
because
true.
we've been really hit along the East Coast these last couple of years.
I'd be so fascinated, like, to get stats on people that go to Bondi Beach on like a summer's day. How many of them actually like have had swimming lessons, and then how many of them actually like are trained in CPR or no? Like,
especially Bondi as well, like touristy.
It would be so low. Like, it would be shockingly low.
That reminds me so much. That's why, Dad, there's a beach in Victoria called Gunnamatta. It is...
Don't say that.
It's like, it's more dangerous than Bondi. And it can change like that. You've got different currents, the rips, there's also the reef section, it can change. Like I've seen, you know, their parents put their kids in the shallows, next minute it's literally like a bowling alley of the kids being rolled in because one of the surge waves have come. Like it changes so quickly. Dad had us on the surfboards with him at 4 in the rips and everything, and he goes, if you fall off you hold your breath, this is how we get out of a rip. He wanted us to know how to read it.
It's so important.
And it was early on, like from that age, there was always ambos and everything at the beach, which was horrific. He wanted us to see it. Because something that my parents have always said is to never get cocky in nature and never take it for granted.
100%.
Because it will win every time.
It destroys us.
Because it's so beautiful. Like, we're always like talking about how beautiful nature is, but it's savage.
It is a relentless force that will just bury us.
And it keeps... We're human.
It keeps you humble.
We're not indestructible.
Yeah, it keeps you so humble. I think like growing up either near the ocean or in the mountains, like somewhere, anywhere where there's Himalayas or anything like that, I think you just have this humility about you because you've experienced what it's like to have that force like win against you. And like we're just lucky enough that we're still alive and it hasn't been to that extent. But like there's been so many times where you're panicking and you're like, oh, I'm helpless right now. This is just taking me and doing whatever it wants with me. And it just forces such a respect. Like I'm so respectful of the ocean because I know it will always win. Like I just can't beat it.
No, but have you done any other sort of, like, obviously you've been involved in like a lot of water stuff. Like, have you done any other sports like through your life? I was a gymnast for 10 years. Oh, that's right. You mentioned that.
That was awesome. Intense, but awesome. Taught me a lot of life skills. Very, very disciplined sport. I've always motorbike ride, horse ridden. We don't have horses ourselves, but that was one skill Mum wanted us to learn. It was like Dad gets the bikes, Mum wants us to learn
Really?
how to ride a horse.
Oh, that's cool.
And I guess just always outside. But in terms of sport, I've dabbled in soccer, AFL, netball, kind of through school. Love running, so I always did the cross country and athletics and stuff. But gym took up a lot of my time when you're training 30 plus hours a week on top of school. I guess that's kind of in terms of outdoorsy sports.
With Miss World, like, you know how this is going backwards, but I'm so curious. You said there's like a sporting aspect. What is that?
Fitness challenge.
Okay, yeah.
So it kind of depends on the location and on the year. Last Miss World was in Puerto Rico, so they did. Cool. They kind of did like soccer challenges with some of the team there. They did. It's predominantly, from what I've seen, athletics. So track and field. You're separated into teams and then you're kind of ranked.
Surely cricket.
Swimming. I'm sure good at cricket. So
and the expectation would be so high.
Oh my goodness.
It'd be horrible. But it depends a little bit on the location.
That's so cool. And do you know, like, do you get to train for it, or?
No, you just have to be well-rounded.
Wow. Surely.
That's so cool.
Surely get you in the nets.
Yeah, get in there.
Game up.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to need to start swimming at the baths and things like that more. But
what would be the prediction for in India?
Definitely.
Could be cricket.
It could be cricket.
Yeah.
It could be cricket.
Well, if you play AFL, like, at least you've got catching skills, like hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
Like, you seem, I feel like
bit.
you've done enough sports to have like a general athletic base.
I think it's mental. So gym taught me the grit.
Yeah, true.
It's definitely going to be quite mental. But no, we don't really get told what we're doing.
Dang. So it can't be too crazy then, surely.
I think like athletic, they would probably do athletic round, like long jump, 100 meter, 200 meter sprints.
That's so cool. I love that aspect of it, because it's just like,
it's a little side piece, but it still adds to it.
And it's like, and you can't, like, you could tell yourself that it doesn't matter, but it does.
It does.
It helps you get into the top 40, if not your top 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that the same for Miss World Australia? Is it the same, like, same
so
thing,
we had
you're
a
just doing it
challenge.
again? Yeah. What was that?
We had like a ninja course.
No way.
Ninja warrior
Oh my
course.
goodness. That would have been so fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We did it on, the national final was on the Gold Coast.
Wait, so did you like just slay everyone out? Like, did you destroy everyone?
No, I was really sick that week.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I was not well and I hadn't slept. I did okay on the obstacle course, but then come time to do like the cardio element, your gas tank was probably like 50% because you were sick. It was not great. But the thing for me was I always wanted to go in being well-rounded.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
It's the only strategy you can have if you don't know.
Yeah. Just be decent at everything, and then over the pool you just get so many points.
Yeah. So they're called fast tracks though. So the sporting fast track, there's a talent fast track, top model, social media, the interview fast track, beauty with a purpose, and they all kind of but the competition goes for 30 days.
Dang, it's like Olympics. So, like, it's like a proper.
To dumb this down, is like, Miss Congeniality. Obviously, it's like there's a lot of stereotypes and stuff within that, but is it like sort of the same concept where they do all these different bits and pieces?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then they kind of all add up to the last night.
Yeah. So do you think you are a competitor at heart? Like, you seem to have done a lot of sports and seem to love pushing yourself.
Yeah, I think look, I know this sounds very cheesy. Honestly, though, I feel I'm competing against the best version of myself, because I know as an individual, even with gymnastics, the thing with gymnastics is that you're on your own, but it teaches you also to work in a team but rely on yourself. So that's where I think it was ingrained within me to compete against the best version of myself for the team, because it's up to me how I perform. So I think that mindset is what I'm targeting.
That's cool. And I think it's sort of the best way to go about it, because there's also the mindset you can have where, like, you're trying to do the best for all the other competitors in Australia that, like, didn't get Miss World Australia, because, like, they would have killed to be in your spot,
Yeah.
and had they been, they would have been working really hard.
Yeah.
So it's like you almost have that sort of chip on your shoulder to
Sure.
work hard and to
Yeah.
show up as the best version of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And the girls that I competed against were some incredible women. Still talk to them to this day. They're beautiful girls. And I think that mindset at the international. Another thing is, we all offer. We're so different. So how can we compete against each other?
Yeah.
Like we're so different as individuals. So it's kind of like I want.
It's
the
a hard
best.
metric
Yeah.
because it's not like you're running 100 meters. Who does it the
No.
fastest? You're
Because
Having,
yours
like,
is like there's so
global
many
impact.
things. It's
So
like,
many
oh, you're all good at
layers.
different things.
so different.
They're
Which I-
basically trying to pick an ambassador.
Yeah, and that's what I like. How you approach it is not necessarily they're picking a winner. It's just like kind of someone to represent everyone,
Yeah.
which is sick. So what's your talent and what is, or you can't say?
The reason why I can't say my talent is because it's never been done at Miss World before.
Oh my goodness.
Dang.
So
Whoa!
I am
The
keeping
pitch.
that one quite tight-lipped.
Yeah.
That's huge.
But it's never been done at Miss World before.
Oh
That's a
my
sick
goodness. That's
pitch.
huge.
Having that
Really?
line. No, but that's cool because it creates the expectation of it could be great or it could suck.
Who knows?
Pressure.
We'll find
Yeah.
out. But
What are some typical talents?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you have some of the best like dancers, singers, musicians in the world for
Okay.
talent. Some of the talents, oh my gosh, there was like a rhythmic gymnast one year. There was like an acrobat. There was the opera singers. We
I
had
could not do
pianists.
this.
Dude, I was thinking like, what's my
Ideas,
talent?
yeah.
I'm like, I think I just have to train for like a breath hold or like,
Yeah, I'd
I
have
don't
to
know.
pick a specific thing and just like
Something that-
dedicate myself to it. I don't have like a talent
I'm not,
like
I
that.
can't sing, I can't play music.
Yeah.
What would I do?
I can't sing either. and
Can
I
you do
can't play-
anything? Like, could you cook?
Is it or
Like,
no?
is there a
there's
limitation?
There's
Okay.
a limitation.
What is that? What is that? Like, what's the rule
It has
set?
to. They haven't given us exact rules, but based off what everyone does, it's like a displayable talent,
Gotcha.
like a
Yeah.
specific talent.
And you can also tell based off how they judge as well.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be. Yeah.
Like, my only hope would just be some like just endurance, mental grit thing.
Yeah. Just
Like,
something
I'll
that's specific.
stay out here the longest or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I
No,
can't
don't
share
be
it,
sorry.
But
No, if anything,
I-
you've sold me now. Now I'm just
Yeah,
like,
now I'm more
keen to
invested.
see. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So yeah.
Do you have like a time limit for that?
Yes, we would. I haven't been given.
Oh,
one,
you haven't been given,
but
yeah.
Wow. And then
So what skills are necessary for Miss World that you're still trying to like work on and grow on, whether it be like presenting or communication skills or stuff like that?
all of it. Yeah, just trying to stay as well-rounded as I can and very grounded. For me, it's definitely going over with a strong representation in all factors of competition, and ensuring that I'm implementing things now to carry me beyond Miss World.
Yeah.
But it's all areas. We are planning things down to the last minute, the last little detail in terms of, so I have the mindset of everything that I can control, I'm trying to plan. So
I like that.
your outfits, your your schedules, all of that. I'm trying to
There's so many
Yeah.
elements. Can't wrap my head around that.
yeah.
And when you say we, is there a whole body
Yeah,
help? Like, how many
team.
people are directly helping you?
I have the support of my organization, but everything you see me do, it's me.
Wow.
What?
So I control my own website. I have my socials. Any activities I do with Educate Resuscitate or Bush to Beats, it's on me.
It's all you.
So with it, but
Oh my
even with
goodness.
like Miss World, like because you're Miss World Australia, do they then help you in Miss World? Like, is there like another organization that's like Miss World Australia and they help you in Miss World?
Like whether it be your
So that's my direct,
Yeah.
the organization.
Yes,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you do everything for you.
Yeah.
Wow. And does that aid you in Miss World, or is that just something you like to do to have like your touch on it, or?
I have the flexibility to compete how I want to compete. So how well I do is up to me. That's very motivating.
yeah.
And before I do something, I kind of take a moment to reflect and assess if my roots and my grounding and me, my soul me, would actually do it. Then that has helped kind of stir the direction that I'm on.
Yeah.
But I have kind of the freedom to compete how I want to compete, meaning that going over, I am nothing but myself. to present.
That's such a
It's just
psychological
me.
thing to, because I'm thinking about if I was in that situation, I reckon my mind would go straight to like, there's me as like, for lack of a better term, like my brand. And then there's like me when no one else is around me. Is that like, do you have any like, not
I
issues,
definitely
but
have
does that,
the separation. Like
Yeah.
I know when I have to be Miss Australia versus Kristen. There's definitely scenarios, but something that I really suck at is when I'm with kids. It's blurred. Kristen
okay.
comes out. It
Yeah.
just you can't fake it when you're
but
around
that's
them.
kind of beautiful though. Like you get to like be,
It's just me.
yeah, you let yourself actually be that.
I think when I'm Miss Australia, it's more so being in rooms, making conversation, and that skill set,
Yeah.
which is
It-
different.
It almost sounds like there's no corruption per se. It's more
No,
just
yeah.
like you're not going to talk about the dumb shit you would talk about with your friends in a Miss
Yeah.
World
Yeah.
Australia room. It's more like the filter of
Yeah.
how do I want to portray myself here. I'm still me,
Yeah.
but just
It's like a professional filter.
Exactly,
Yes, yeah.
exactly.
Which, like,
That's all it is.
Everyone, like, we were speaking about this the other day, like, you talk to different friends in different ways, or you talk
Yeah.
to different people in different ways,
Yeah.
which is like, that's fine, that's normal.
Yeah.
You adapt, but like, yeah, that's pretty cool that you have that. Because, like, I think with with you, like, what sort of, like, things are you doing for fun? Like, what's your fun when it's just you?
When it's
Kristen?
just me.
Like, what is that? Like, what are the things you do for fun?
This sounds.
No,
Well, I'm-
this is what I'm trying to get out of you. Yeah,
I'm still only 24.
yeah.
I love honestly, I'm quite a homebody. The environment that I'm currently living in is just beautiful. So I would happily I love cooking. Cooking is, I think one of my love languages is acts of service. Cooking is like an avenue for that. I love cooking for anybody and everyone.
Lunch on.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would say like cooking, music, glass of wine, talking to Georgia, going out for a drink or so. But we prefer like cocktail bars or live music or something like that rather than clubbing.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's an age thing as you get older.
Yeah, for sure.
I love walking, hiking, definitely. I'm big into cold water therapy, so swimming a lot. Being around Zeus, being around family. I'm a big people person. I love being around new personalities. So anytime I'm in an environment where I get to meet new people, that to me is fun.
Yeah, that's
Because
cool.
I love
Just
connection, and it's
Yeah.
just like the curiosity. What can I learn here?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that's kind of, I love to read as well. I love to chill out. I'm very easily pleased.
Yeah,
It
that's
does
cool.
not take a lot to make me happy.
Yeah.
When someone says, "Who are you?" like, what answer do you give them?
I would say if someone was to ask who I am, my mind straight away goes to like Zeus, family, volunteering.
I like that.
That to me is like the roots of who I am.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sick. That was I was interested to hear what you were gonna say to that, because I know a lot of people really get caught up in like their achievements or accomplishments, and that's how they see themselves as who they are, but like that's just what they do.
Yeah.
But I like that everything you said is like the things that are closest to you, your community, and the things that ground you, not like I'm Miss World Australia.
Yeah.
I've always seen it as a nice addition, not me. It's just more so because it's temporary. It's a title and a lot of responsibility comes with it, and I feel so privileged having it. But there's life beyond Miss World Australia, let alone Miss World. And I've kind of always had that perspective that it's a really nice addition to who I am,
That's
but
cool.
it doesn't define me as a person.
Did you at all like? Have you just had that realization from the get-go, or did you actually have some time where you were like, it got to you a little bit?
No, from the get-go.
That's good.
I've always seen it as a job.
Yeah.
I've never seen it as a method of defining who I am as a person.
Because I can't imagine what it would look like if you went the other way.
I think
that'd
it
be
would
pretty
messy.
scary.
Yeah.
I think it.
Especially in that sort of organization,
like
it doesn't
what that-
fit the body of what that is.
No.
Yeah.
And so I've always viewed it as a job.
And I think it's like as well an avenue for opportunities, as you've
Yeah.
spoken
Oh, yeah.
about. Like
Definitely.
you're very aware everything you do is very intentional. You're like, okay, I now have this stage, I have this platform.
Yeah.
How can I use it to set myself up and
Yeah.
for later on, which I think is great because everything you want to do again is have a positive impact on the world, which is cool.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it.
I hate wasting time and opportunity because I think it comes back to I'm very aware of the privilege I have.
That's something we've been speaking about a lot recently. Like we have all the opportunity and the resources to do something great. Like why are we not doing that? Like why would we sit down and binge a whole bunch of Netflix? And not that that's a bad thing for the most part, but like
Sunday.
but like more just out of do. Why would we sit and waste our time? We're not doing anything wrong, but we're not doing anything great right now. Like we should be learning. We should be doing this.
I think we just got given a lot. Like we've taken a lot by like without even trying. It's like we've got to give more. Like in a situation where, like you said, it's just so unfair. And sometimes you can get caught up in that because it's just like, like then there's pressure to do more or do something because you've had this responsibility, which again, you haven't been given. So there's that aspect. But yeah, it's like, I feel like that's what you can do as someone who's been has been given everything.
There is that healthy balance though of not blaming yourself for being in that situation.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not a matter of blaming yourself, but more so acknowledgement that I think is really important. The acknowledgement and then what you do with it, that's kind of the important thing. And look, a good deed might be doing like just even talking to your community, like at a coffee shop, making conversation with the elderly people and being nice to your local barista. And the little actions go such a long way. And I think it comes back full circle to, if you can make someone else's day just by being nice, being like, how are you? Like, you know, what's going on with you today? That it's the smallest action and it's by someone from within your bubble, so to speak, but it can really make a difference.
Definitely. And I think people sometimes forget that it doesn't always have to be direct. A lot of the time it can be indirect. Like by us working on what we're working on, trying to build our dreams and create the life we want, that is us indirectly trying to have like a really positive impact on the world. And people can so often get like lost in, I'm just being selfish, you know. It's like, what's the intent? What do you intend to do with this position, or what do you intend to do with the money you're trying to make?
And it's even like your actions, like reflecting on the people who are around you too. Like if you have a group of friends and someone's doing well, you're always like, that person's doing really well. It can kind of motivate you to do actual better things as well.
Definitely.
So taking on that responsibility.
And I think it's just again all about perspective.
So where, like, obviously you're doing all this stuff now, you've got so much on your plate, like where do you think you see yourself at like 30?
Hopefully with a family.
Okay, cool.
I'm a big family person. I've always want kids. More the merrier, 3, 4 if I'm blessed with them, but if only blessed with one, that's to me hopefully with family, hopefully with the responsibilities of Miss World. Project's going to be implemented in schools, followed by working hopefully with pediatrics.
Oh, actually, a question I did have. So say Miss World, best case scenario, I assume, like you win Miss World. What does that look like? And how long does that last? Is it every year it gets?
It's a year, so basically you travel to countries doing humanitarian work.
Oh my goodness. That's like your dream.
The current Miss World, I believe, she's gone to something like 30 countries.
Holy shit.
And you meet people, you meet with their government, you meet with the actual people that you're impacting, and you make a difference.
Wow.
That's
because I was actually having a look at the Miss World just Instagram account, and it's like, I was like, it's the, well, that makes sense. Like whoever the Miss World is, like
Just
currently,
pushed.
it's their account.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I was looking at it like, I thought it was like promotional stuff. Nothing, just pure. It's like their
Pure the
account.
work. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it really is like you're an ambassador, and it's your like
Your
a
job
certain
for a
identity.
year.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's
I
amazing.
definitely, honestly, I did not give it the respect it deserves. Like until I
and
saw
people
more. If I'm
don't.
honest,
Yeah.
seriously, like
I
I think it's lack of information, just lack of
100%.
understanding.
What we
like,
have here for sure.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
a good
think
point
as well,
here, especially. Yeah.
And I think because I am a very happy person,
Mhm.
and I think I can come off as quite bubbly and you know, chatty and blonde. And that factor rolled in with a little pageant label.
Yeah. You just
The
connect
perfect
dots.
recipe.
Yeah.
So,
What is the beauty side to it, the physical aspect, the dresses, all that sort of stuff? Does that play a big role?
The beauty of it, from what I can understand, is actually how you present yourself. Not like actual,
The
if
attributes.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the way you present yourself when you talk to people, how you hold yourself, how you dress. It's different factors than
I would have
just,
no
yeah.
hope. I'm just like homeless clothes, barefoot. Like, nope. See ya.
It's that whole
Mm.
so much bigger than that.
Which is cool because
I love
again,
that
like
side of it.
that
Yeah.
is in your control.
Mm.
How you look is like physically is not in your control for the most part.
And it's on top of that as well. Two things Mum has always drilled into us. But there's a few very good lessons Mum has taught us as kids. One is to look for the reason to why people act the way that they do. Once you look for that reason, it allows you to act with empathy rather than with hurt or anger, because you're coming from a place of understanding. And two, beauty comes from within. And they kind of go pair in pair, because when you express empathy with someone, you're expressing it from your soul, and beauty comes from your soul. People can read in a room whether you're real or not. And I think that in itself is a big part of Miss World, is finding the realness amongst the fun, which the fun is the dresses. I can't wait to show you guys my gown, my final gown, you know, that's the fun side,
cool.
because it's like the reward for the hard work. And who doesn't love to get dressed up, you know? And it's
honestly, me, like, but I'm just
Didn't
like,
you, like,
I'm the
in this
one of one.
environment.
I'm the one of
Your
one.
dress up days are over, like as in when you were a kid. Like, didn't you dress up in all your sister's clothes and
did,
stuff like
I
that?
did.
Yeah, they're over
Yeah.
now.
But it's I think it's more about how you present yourself.
I love it.
Because again, we're all different. We're all from different countries.
Yeah.
The beauty standard is out the window because
Yeah.
we're all so different.
And it's so subjective.
so subjective.
Yeah.
So they truly, I believe, look for who you are as a person, which is kind of presented on you.
There is like learning more about it. There's such an education gap in what like people think it is.
Yeah.
Like, I never put much thought into it, but my default thought is always like, oh, like it's just about like the physical beauty.
Yeah.
But it just goes so much deeper. And honestly, Miss Congeniality gave me so much more insight.
Yeah.
They're great
Is this a
movies.
movie? I've never.
Yeah, there's
So
two of them.
good.
Sandra Bullock.
I need to. I will
Dude, they're
now.
amazing. I love the cups. She like her talent is she fills like cups up with water, different amounts, and like you know how you can play the vibration.
Oh, yeah,
You play
yeah,
the
yeah.
cups. She does that.
That's
Oh,
it.
sick.
That's her talent.
I love
good.
the bit where they're like, what's your favorite date? Like, what's your favorite date? And the judge meant it in a sense of being asked out on a date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she goes like August 25th. It's not too cold.
Yeah.
And that's just my favorite
It's the
line. But she
greatest.
said it with such conviction.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like
Yeah.
so much confidence.
Because
So
like
funny.
to give context, so she's an undercover cop. So she's like this real like has this like masculine energy, and you know
Yeah,
they're all
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
they portray them as like antsy pantsy, and she's just like you know
opposite.
grabbing a
Yeah.
sandwich, like slamming it down her throat sort of thing.
I
It's
think
so
that's
funny.
another beautiful thing about I love the whole masculine and feminine energy. I think it's really beautiful. And I think when a balance of both, it's just magic. But something really nice is that you have these like hyper independent women, but in an environment that makes you feel comfortable enough to be feminine.
Yeah.
Like it's that nice, okay, yes, we all have our careers and we're quite driven, and that to me is quite a masculine side because we have to be kind of self-sufficient. But then being in this environment surrounded by other women who are equally as empowered creates a very safe space.
That's quite cool. I like that.
So then your feminine
analysis.
energy can kind of flourish.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and you don't feel like you have to be this absolute machine.
No.
Like, yeah. On that makes me think about, because I noticed there's also like Mr. World. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that a thing?
I'm not super familiar.
Yeah, okay.
I believe we have had a really brilliant representative
Yeah.
for a couple years.
Yeah.
But I'm not super familiar with how that works.
Okay, I was gonna say.
You guys should enter.
Yeah. I was thinking like
Do they
how.
accept bare feet?
Like I wonder how that works with them, because I wonder if it's like
yeah.
really pushed to be like very masculine focused. Like
Yeah, I'm not
that'd be really
sure.
interesting to look into.
That
You
would
might
be.
have to do
'Cause, like, do
some
they-
research and get back to me.
Yeah.
Not
Seriously,
aware.
we'll look into it because like I wonder if they did express sort of feminine side of males. Like I wonder how
Yeah.
they would go about doing that.
Mm.
That'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Given that you really, like the way you spoke about the environment, it seems like a very desirable environment to be in. Do you think you would ever want to recreate that environment outside of Miss World, or take lessons from that environment to try and breed them
100%.
into environments? Like, what do you think that
Yeah.
would look like?
I think it would be very valuable within schools to have a similar mindset of not necessarily competing against each other, but competing for a better cause,
Mm-hmm.
a cause bigger than us as individuals. Because I think the school environment can naturally be quite toxic, especially with the
Gosh.
pressure on kids at the
Yeah.
moment and things like that. And even then, just having, they don't have to be just females. They can be co-ed, like conferences and things like that, where you are surrounded by people who have lived and who have stories. But I think it's a two-part kind of system where you have to be willing to listen. If you have people not willing to listen to others' stories, there's no point in the exchange. Whereas the environment at Miss World, we all get to know each other very well because we're there for a month. It's a very interesting environment. But I think it would benefit being around, it's always benefited being around like-minded people. Benefiting, sorry. Yeah, it can be implemented kind of anywhere.
Yeah, that'd be interesting in schools, because especially it's more the age thing. Like being younger, like you're a bit more selfish. Like we were
Yeah.
speaking about before, like you're a teenager. It's like the world revolves around you. So it'd be interesting how that would actually work in that scenario.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it more comes to the development of oneself, because to get to a point where you want to listen, that has to come from within you. It can never be, it never works when a teacher tells a classroom to listen. You listen out of fear, not because you're actually curious about what the person's saying. And to learn to listen in a way of learning has to be like this strong desire and this respect and understanding of the environment.
I think though that also comes down to is that we sometimes forget education is such a privilege because of how easily accessed it is here.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I wouldn't even say sometimes, I'd almost say
All
like
the time, honestly.
more,
I don't think
way
I've
more than
ever,
less.
Like,
I don't think I ever went to school one day and was like, wow, how blessed am I that I get to come to this institution that like allows me to
I'm
learn.
100% certain I never did.
Yeah.
Like I'm 100% certain I
Yeah.
never did that.
And it's we all are guilty of it because it's what we're used to, and we can't beat ourselves up for that. But I think conversations need to start about changing that mindset because that's where it stems from. And when you start to realize how lucky you are for your situation that you're in, oh my gosh, everything is just like
The grass is greener, like the food tastes better. And I think it's the conversations and also the exposure. For you, it was volunteering at 14 and being paying witness to those that don't have the opportunities and resources that you have. And it's always the case when you see less, like you're just grateful for what you have. You're grateful to have more. And you also, in many ways, don't desire more. Like you see these people that are truly happy with what they have. You're like, I don't even want these. I don't know. I always come back to heated floor tiles. I don't have them, but that's always like in my mind, like, why do you have heated floor tiles?
Yeah,
Just
it's like-
so unnecessary.
Yeah.
But that sort of stuff, you're like, I don't want that. That doesn't add to my life.
and it affirms as well, like health is wealth. If you have your health, that's priceless.
Literally. Oh my goodness.
It is like, I had a migraine 2 weeks ago, and I was like, it is the most.
They're horrific. If you don't
Yeah.
get migraines, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like, I don't say that for any sympathy, but it's more, I was laying there like, I can't do anything right now. Like, wow. Like, wow. Health is literally everything. Like how you feel in your body and your mind, your soul. Like that is all of it.
I've been thinking about it because your finger.
Yeah.
Because like I see you like typing as of recent, like we've been doing a lot of typing and stuff, and I see you and I'm just flying through whatever we're doing and you're still there like that. I'm just like, even something as simple as that, like a broken finger.
Poor Josh.
Yeah, poor Josh. Yeah, poor you.
But yeah, it is cool. So you said like obviously health is a massive focus for you. You love cooking. Are you very aware of like what you're eating and things like that? Like what does that sort of look like for you?
I am a little bit in terms of trying to make choices. I don't restrict or anything like that because I want to live, you know. But in terms of like diet, so to speak, look, I'm really lucky. I've kind of stayed the same since I was 18. I haven't really had to worry about what I eat, so to speak, but I've always made healthy choices because I enjoy it, because I know like
It'll make you feel better.
and like the way my parents raised us around food was always just positive. Like we had the sweets and we had the everything, but they kind of just, they knew, like I think through gym that's where it really clicked that food was fuel. More so as well though at gym, we when I was training flat out when I was like 13, I used to eat so much. I used to have 2 breakfasts, lunch for recess, 2 lunches, a meal before I trained, then dinner when I got home.
Were you thinking the fudge just then? 2 breakfasts? Is that what you laughed?
No, I was thinking Haley. So we had this water polo player on. She's like in the Australian team, and she was just like running through her food because she loves food and like so,
she's a foodie and she's a Australian water polo
she's a
player.
professional
so
athlete. And it's just like so exciting because we're foodies as well. And there's almost a part of you that is like, I do the sport so I can eat all the food. Not I love the sport, I love what it gives me. It's like, no, I just want to eat.
We're reflecting on things we've done. It was like in that pod, we're just like, that's a part of the reason like why you do it.
So food's so good.
Oh my
and
goodness.
all the different nationalities that we have here, like we're very, very lucky.
Very good point. Yeah.
But
and that's another point to like for what we have. Like I've never had to worry about food.
No.
And the food is fuel thing. Like it's nuts that I only like personally only like kind of like was clocked onto that fully, like when doing like sporting events, like taking that a little bit more seriously, like realizing that, like actually being a little bit more calculated. And like it's crazy that that's the time that I start thinking about that, not when I'm like 5 and I need to get food because my parents can't provide, they're at work or something. Like
different culture.
It's just that's crazy.
And also though, being now a woman, but when I was a girl, I was around very positive influences with food, because now the rate of eating disorders and things like that, it's very scary. My coach would come in and she would be concerned if we weren't eating enough.
Wow.
She'd be like, you guys need more food, what can I get you? Where like that was the environment, because she's like, you're not gonna have energy. Like you know, so that was kind of my environment with food. But I genuinely love eating like fish and salads and like to me it's yum, and I love my favorite cuisine ever that I could eat for the rest of my life is
there's one right after. No, I'm kidding.
and there's well, it's 2. I love like raw, so sashimi or but the Vietnamese soup, PHO. I'm not gonna say it because I
Pho.
Is it pho?
It's pho. It's pho. But it's the accent on the
like,
we can't I don't know how to do it. Yeah.
But that is like favorite dish of all time.
Wow.
Because you were in Vietnam. How was that?
I didn't really get to see Vietnam. It was for a work trip. I was literally there 3 nights. Like it was in out. But I want to go back because their culture, the people were beautiful. Food.
Yeah, the food is so good.
So I want to go back.
Still haven't had one of those yet.
So good. But Vietnam's cool, and sashimi. That's a good answer.
Do you eat like red meat?
Yes.
Other meats? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I do love a good steak. Can't really go wrong. But I like it rare.
Me too.
Okay.
I'll go blue.
Sometimes when I say that, I'm like, oh.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just around people who would like it more rare.
Rare to medium rare. Like medium rare is like, I don't want to go any past that.
I'm scared. I'm way more afraid of medium than I am of blue.
I also don't like, this is a bit kind of, on like good cuts of meat. I don't like gravy or anything, just salt and pepper.
No,
The meat
because it doesn't
is
show
so
it.
flavoursome.
But if it's like a shitty
then you
Yeah.
get something
You
on
know,
top.
like,
Well, I mean, shitty. Like, we're very blessed.
Yeah.
But no, meat is I eat the most like basic foods, and I'm for the most part I just don't have any sauces or anything because food has so much flavor. Like even vegetables, when you actually will just eat the vegetable,
Yeah.
after like a certain amount of time of not having sauces and stuff, you start to taste the flavors.
Yeah.
And I love doing that because
It's
so
like,
flavoursome.
and that's here where like a lot of stuff's farmed. Like imagine where you go to places where you just like pick it off a tree and
Oh
eat
my
it.
goodness.
Like we had a man named Juan on the pod, and
From Colombia.
he's Colombian.
Yeah.
He was talking about like when he first came here, like about like fruits and vegetables, and he's like, what is this shit? Like he sees it all, he's like, what is that shit? It's so
Wow.
small.
And
And like,
it's
why
like,
do they look the same? Why do they all look the
why
same?
are they all round and perfect?
And like I was like a little bit aware of that, but even Josh was like, I didn't know that they were meant to be all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And then he was just like humble. He was just like, look, I didn't even know that. And Juan's like, what? Like what?
Yeah.
And he's talking about like all the different sizes and how like they don't even drink water or something. What
Yeah.
did he say? He's like, they don't even
No.
drink.
Like in Colombia, it's huge for them to have like fruit juices. So like with lunch, rather than having like water, they'll just have like fruit juice. It's just like blended fruit.
Because like we think like we associate water with hydration, but like those fruit juices are so much more hydrating than what water is for them.
Yeah.
So they'll just have the fruit juices.
It's again perspective.
Yeah,
Mm.
and culture, and that's the cool thing with
like the stuff you're doing, opportunities to travel, you have the mindset of not going somewhere for like, oh my goodness, this is so cool, but more like, let me learn, let me experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you know that the more experience you gain, the more knowledge you have, and through that, there's wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that because
Is there anything that you want to like touch on at all? Have we missed anything that you do?
Oh gosh, I don't
I
think.
feel like we covered all bases in
feel
terms of
we're
what you're
pretty
actually
covered.
doing with yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on. But when is Miss World again? When did you say?
End of the year.
End
We
of the year.
haven't been given a date yet.
Okay.
But as soon as I know, I'll let you guys know. But it is 30 days.
yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So
Is it-
just a full month. Wow.
Full month in India, which will be
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really cool.
Yeah.
How do your friends see you? Because I'm assuming your friends aren't in that same space exactly. Well, I'm sure a lot of them are. As you said, you're friends with the people in there, but like you're really close friends.
My really close friends, I have a very small circle. And I like it that way. I am friendly with a lot of people and getting to know them, but in terms of those who know my soul, there's only like a handful, I would say. And I don't know how they would describe me. I think they see the just Chris, like typical, go to work, I have fun. I think Georgia has said that it's motivating. The people I surround myself with, we're never threatened by each other's ambitions. We're so like their wins are my wins, and there's just this abundance of love and care for each other. And those are the people that I surround myself with because it's such a fruitful environment for growth. Like Georgia had a really successful thing happen actually all this week. She's been on a roll this week, and like I get teary thinking about it because her wins are my wins. That's there's just that love, and that's how I am with my friend group. And I think I hope I'm motivating to them as they're motivating to me, as they are as motivating to me. And I think I hope I add kind of a grounding calm presence because my life can be very chaotic in terms of external sources, and I know that theirs can be too. And so I hope my element to the friendship is that grounding, is that calming, that peaceful kind of safe space, because I think if I can be someone else's safe space, that to me is where they can feel open enough to communicate how they feel and kind of be raw with me. That's the biggest compliment. I think someone being comfortable around you is like the highest level of respect.
Because there's no lying in that sort of scenario.
And not only that, there's just that the highest level of vulnerability.
Yeah, there's something about vulnerability that just like it's the highest form of like truth.
Yes.
Because we always talk about truth being like different things, like everyone can have their own truths. But there's like one of the highest forms of truth or universal forms of truth is that vulnerability and being comfortable.
Yeah, and it's just those are the people who I surround myself with, because I know I'm going to be put in a lot of vulnerable places.
Oh yeah.
And potentially uncomfortable. So to come home to that and to be around those people, you know, because my home isn't necessarily just where I'm currently living. It's with my people. And that to me is something that I also hope I give them. Like, it's a very transactional kind of relationship in terms of we give equal amounts as we take.
And that's very much so how it is with vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, if you want someone to be vulnerable yourself.
Yes, for sure.
Which is
you have to.
Is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because there's no lying, there's no getting around that, which is cool. I did have a question.
Yeah.
With the contrast of Miss World and like being this very beautiful, peaceful, loving thing, but then like the intensity and the seriousness of like your individual projects, how do you find that is? And do you find yourself getting caught in like an emotional kind of roller coaster sometimes, where if you dive too much into thought of like your purpose and your project, like that can be very depressive and a very sad like thought pattern to be stuck in? But then you come back to like, I'm around all these beautiful people that want to make a change in the world.
I think it comes down to my upbringing and the things I went through as a teen. I think I'm a very strong individual and I'm very level-headed, which allows me in really difficult certain situations, because my heart is always involved when it comes to my project, and I'm not ashamed of that, and nor will I taint that, because I think it has to have heart in order to make an impact. Otherwise it's too clinical. And I think being strong enough to be able to kind of self-evaluate, let alone externally evaluate the situation, is what allows me to persevere through them, because it gives me the strength to understand what is going on, allowing myself to get emotionally involved, but also understand that it is for a meaningful cause. And I think there's something really beautiful when we are hurt about the growth that we receive from that. And to understand that this is an external situation that I'm choosing to help in. It's just, I think, the strength of the mindset, if I'm being completely honest, and I'm really lucky to have that.
That's cool, because I like the way you said it's about the growth that can come from pain, and I think we just choose which way we go. We can go into the darkness and we can allow that pain to push us further down, or we can choose to rise and go upwards. And clearly that's what you're doing. Like that, having that traumatic event happen at 16, and then 2021, or in 2020, 2021, seeing those stats and numbers come out, to now using all that pain to like really have a positive impact is so cool, because I think universally we all experience pain, and we all experience great amounts of pain, and like you're a great representation of what you can do with that pain and how you can truly have an impact. And not everyone needs to be do what you're doing or start a foundation, anything like that, but it is also just showing us like, hey, you could like let this impact more than you, like you could take this somewhere else.
And it comes down to perseverance and resilience that I honestly think we lost a little bit of it during COVID, and rightfully so. And I think the ability to persevere in a situation that makes you uncomfortable or has hurt you is linked with growth, obviously, but it's also, I think, linked into tapping into that mindset, is that again about perspective, and you're out of your bubble. Not to say that your lows and your hurts aren't important, because they are, and you can't compare yours to someone else's. That's equally as important, but perspective about the matter is what allows you to choose how you act. It's how you act is very dependent on the way you progress.
Definitely. And again, exposing yourself. Don't wait for life to throw discomfort at you. Expose yourself. Like, do the cold water immersion. Push yourself physically. Challenge yourself through whatever means it is, intellectually.
And be brave. And be brave enough to back yourself. And be brave enough to solely believe in who you are as an individual and the person that you're becoming, which I think hand in hand attracts abundance.
100%.
Yeah.
That's so cool. This has been such a great conversation.
It's been awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Well, I feel really privileged. Thank you for speaking to me.
Oh, our absolute pleasure.
thank
We
you.
wrap every pod up with a challenge. So we get our guests to give us a challenge. You can partake in it. We'll try to complete it the week this podcast is released. We usually keep it themed to like something that's going on in your life at the moment. Doesn't have to be physical, could be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Take your time and think of a challenge for us.
I challenge you guys this month to partake in a volunteering event.
Oh,
Nice.
I like that.
Great. Yeah, that's cool.
Amy, anything you pick. Fun run, a day, or a day to retirement home, whatever works.
All right. I have a cop-out answer, but I'm gonna do something else. So like I volunteer for my mate's program, but I can't do that because I already do that. So I'll do something else.
What's your mate's program?
So it's called Driven Young. He was actually on the pod last episode that was released by Dempsey. Basically, it's a program for 18 to 30-year-olds in Sydney, looking to launch Melbourne at the end of the year. It's a 6-week program, educational and social events. It's like a personal development. It's never been pitched as like a personal development program, but it definitely has that aspect to it.
Yeah.
Will the results reflect developing personally?
As personally.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There's like, honestly, there's nothing really like it. Like, it's super unique. There's like bushwalks. So I run a bushwalk and teach people how to change a tire.
Amazing.
There's like a launch party. There's like a 2-day like kind of self-development type program. There's educational workshops, things around like finances, things around like limiting beliefs. It's kind of hard to explain, but like it's really amazing. And yeah, I'm just super grateful to be a part of that. It's a lot of fun.
I'm trying to think of the things that I'm gonna what I'd actually.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
I want to know if there's like, because we live near
Do
a lot
like
of.
a kids thing.
Yeah.
Saying you're 18 to 30.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
like
yeah.
under 18.
Yeah, that or maybe old people. Because my mum worked in aged care for many years. So maybe that could be fun.
Yeah.
Even just having a cup of tea with them in an afternoon, or if there's a bingo night you can participate in.
That's cool. Thank you for that challenge.
Yeah, that's a great challenge. I love
Sorry,
the
I feel like it's a
serendipity.
little bit of a cop out.
No, it's great.
No, it's so
Because
good. I think it's your, like, that's the best thing about it, is it's like it's stuff that you're doing, you're passionate about, and stuff that we not necessarily do as much.
Yeah.
And like we get the opportunity to like follow that
And
challenge and see what comes from it,
I
which is
think-
really cool.
As well, the cool thing about it, and like just full disclosure, we definitely do not complete every challenge that is posed to us.
Of course.
But
Totally get that.
the coolest thing I really like about it, and you've said it before, is like it allows us to take a little deeper step into the guest live. Like we chat to them, we have this conversation, we get an insight, but then we actually get to practice something around them and their life and how they behave, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's a great challenge. I'm keen.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you so much.
Kristen. It's
okay.
been
Appreciate your
a
time.
great
Thank
conversation.
you guys. Thank
Yeah.
you
That's
so
it.
much for having me.
Wrap it up.
Of course, yeah. Keen
Thank
to
you.
have lunch cooked by you.
Promise.